All right, my name is Brandon Bate, and I'm going to be doing the China Insider Dossier, considering Schneider Electric. Our mandate, our goal is to evaluate how Schneider Electric advisory services can expand into China using Resource Advisor Plus, which is kind of an agentic AI platform for energy and sustainability management. We approach this as consultants, market reality first, and then product kind of second. China is attracted to us because it's the world's largest manufacturing hub and the largest producer of renewable energy. Success for this would require localization, regulatory compliance, and a clear ROI story for multinational corporations operating there. Let's start with why Chatter matters with us strategically. So, our agenda, we're going to go over the region overview, strategic market alignment, market dynamic and regulatory pressure, a PESTLE analysis, decision maker evolution, defending our leadership position, a SWOT analysis, and then new growth opportunities. And we'll wrap that up at our conclusion. All right, going over our region. So China has 1.4 billion people, dominates global manufacturing, and is the leading shift to renewables in that regard, just based off that population aspect. Energy intensity is enormous. Factories, data centers, EV supply chains. This creates a big demand for energy optimization. Scope, you're looking 1 to 3 emissions tracking, AI-driven decision to support. However, I'd say sustainability is more of a state-driven thing, not purely voluntary. There's a lot of regulations, especially in China, in regards to that. Any solution that we provide must align with national carbon neutrality goals, as well as the centralized governance that China deals with. I think now we're going to talk about the dynamics behind the demand, which makes it critical. All right, so the strategic market alignment. So in terms of dynamics, the industry is growing for the sustainability. China is a highly digital and enterprise. Decisions are top down. What that means is it starts at the top, and the ideas trickle down to the other smaller aspects of the business. Businesses there expect kind of like an AI first tools which match the Resource Advisors Plus agentic design. I think that's more of a shift that they're moving towards. Sustainability drivers are strengthening, but the price and the performance still dominate. So people are still wanting to pay for convenience rather than the sustainability thing. One of the things is home to the massive trillion yuan clusters in the Shanghai and Pearl River Delta, focused on NEVs, high-end equipment, and AI. There's a big kind of local thing there, which is a big market dynamic in that regard. In terms of software adoption, as I mentioned before, highly digital and savvy population and businesses, very centralized data through the government. They control a lot of things, high control environment for these for China. And then mostly enterprise level decisions making with top down, which I mentioned before. Strong government mandates for sustainability, but still price and performance are outdoing sustainability. Moderate availability of data is controlled and regulated, as I mentioned, for high regulations, and the leaders in green infrastructure mixed in corporate sustainability transparency. In terms of Schneider awareness, so there's established in industrial energy sectors. There's base in Hong Kong, as Amy had mentioned before. The limited awareness of Schneider Electric's advisory service outside of the large enterprises. I mentioned before, we're going after big corporations here, not the small organizations. We want the big Fortune 500 company implications. Schneider, I'd say, is respected industrially, yet advisory services has low awareness there. There are existing perceptions that are enterprise focused, but the global brand is not really known there in China. A lot of high competition from the domestic tech and the domestic companies that are existing there within China, and the energy forms and the global competitors as well. So this would be a good area to break into, given that the 1.4 billion people there, I mean the large corporations that exist there. We got to position the Resource Advisory Plus not as like a dashboard, but as a compliance engine, a cost reduction tool, and an AI system of action. I think if you kind of complement those three and move them together, it would bode well for the implementation of Resource Advisory Plus. All right, moving on to a little bit more of the market dynamics. And there's a two-part here thing we're doing with each one. We'll also see the same thing for the PESTLE analysis that we'll do momentarily. Because strong state control from the political side, density of economic state-owned enterprises, strong manufacturing bases. In terms of social, so the growing environmental awareness among the public. So air quality is a big deal there, and the pollution are the main issues. Increasing pressure from global partners, investors for supply chain transparency and scope 3 accountability. So with Schneider Electric's big goal of being sustainability and reducing carbon footprint, I think that's a huge thing, especially amongst the people there that are aware of the social, whatever, every day you walk in and out and air quality is bad. I mean, that's a big social issue. And if companies could use Resource Advisory Plus and get investors in with a part of that to reduce their carbon footprint, I think that would bode well. In terms of technological, the data is tightly regulated, as I mentioned before. It's really hard to, China's got a tight grip on what they let in and what they don't, which is their digital infrastructure. Rapid AI adoption, though, and strong domestic platforms that, again, they're hard to compete with given their hold on the country. Environmental, governmental mandates, I mentioned before, emission reductions, they're doing that, but I mean, it hasn't been a huge, if you look at the social problem that we mentioned before, the environmental issue hasn't really caught up to the social dilemma that they're experiencing over there. So I think there's a need for it. There's definitely a need, but it hasn't translated quite well yet in terms of all the businesses adopting a more of a ESG model. In terms of legal, strict regulatory framework for data and cybersecurity, ESG and sustainability reporting are mostly driven by state policy rather than voluntary corporate initiatives. So they're being forced to do this. This isn't like the businesses are choosing to go green. This is more of a thing where they have to. And if you could flip and switch that vernacular to where the businesses want to go green, can understand that, hey, this can be profitable in the long run, especially with the assistance of Schneider Electric's Advisory Plus. That would be a good opportunity for us. All right, so what this is meaning is like the foreign softwares. I'm going to switch. I'm getting ahead of myself here. All right, the pestle analysis. So there's going to be two-part. Be one more slide on this as well, kind of go into the different factors of this. So politically, sustainability is tied to national strategy with a strong state control, as we mentioned before. Economically, the dense supplier ecosystems create intense price competition. What this means is the foreign software as a service must partner locally. This would be us as Schneider Electric as a foreign SAS, must partner locally. We got to work with these the local businesses there that already have a foothold in the market. And the ROI's got to be financial, not idealistic, which is ROI is the hardest thing to do, especially in marketing. Hard to measure that, but if there's a way that we can partner with the local business and then actually see growth from there, then ROI would be able to be measured in that regard. This entry should leverage Schneider's existing footprint in Hong Kong. I think that'd be a good place to start and then branch out, maybe partner with a local business there and say, hey, what has worked well for you guys? We're trying to break into this new market. We mentioned before the social aspect is kind of building off what we said before. The SE is primarily known in China for the electrical retail, so the advisory services brand, we're going to need a significant kind of social positioning to be seen as a premium consultant instead of just the electrical retail in itself. Truly, there's not enough awareness about Schneider's capability within the Resource Advisory Plus sector. All right, the market is moving on to the technological section. The market is extremely technologically savvy, as we mentioned before. And Resource Advisory Plus is an AI native platform, and this aligns really well with China's rapid adoption of AI and digital intelligence. So it'd be a smooth transition from that regard, nothing crazy in terms of a technological jump in that regard. China's been well on pace with, or if not at the forefront of the AI race, so to say. Environmentally, China has implemented new sustainability disclosure mandates. This creates a massive pain point for the local firms and MNCs who have now need the exact Scope 3 accounting and decarbonization strategies that SE does provide. So with that, the disclosure mandates, Schneider Electric is in a good position there to kind of swoop in, go after these big firms and say, hey, they have these mandates in place. Do you have a plan for this? Is there a way you're going to make these Scope 3 decarbonization strategies that we can assist with? Legally, data sovereignty and localization laws are strict, very strict. It's been hard to get information. Schneider Electric will likely need to ensure that the data processed by Resource Advisor Plus stays within Chinese borders. So you're going to need a lot of cybersecurity with all this, a lot of compliance, a lot of legal jargon. Better have good lawyers for this. Borders to comply with national security and data privacy regulations. Big deal there. Of course, a big deal with any company in general, especially these big Fortune 500 companies that Schneider's looking to target. All right, one more slide on kind of the decision maker and evolution. Oh, one more thing with the pestle I forgot to mention. With the public concern over pollution rising, increasing pressure from global buyers, and the legal reality that data must stay within Chinese borders, The biggest takeaway from this is that compliance first deployment model is a non-negotiable. So you got to start with the legal sector first, and then from there we can build into the other ones and kind of the bigger factors there. All right, so we're going to go into the kind of the centralized strategy, the decision maker evolution there on how things are made in China. So decisions are increasingly centralized at the headquarter level to align with national policy, but regional clusters have high autonomy for pilot status projects. So at the top, you're seeing there's a lot of, everything bodes well at the top, everything's pretty organized, but then as you move down, there's a little more freedom, a little more leeway in terms of trying new things, which is where Schneider Electric would be positioned to implement their software. Talent gap driver, so makers are prioritizing solutions that bridge the skills gap. Schneider's Wuhan Talent Lighthouse Factory is a key proof point of this buyer persona. AI over products. Successful brands in China are winning by selling digital experiences and AI-enabled outcomes rather than just the physical hardware. And then the audit-ready confidence. With 2026 move towards the absolute carbon controls, as we mentioned before, CFOs and boards are seeking a single truth for auditable ESG data to avoid regulatory penalties, which is exactly what Schneider Electric can provide. So there's a big need here. I just think it's the shifting the need into awareness of what Schneider can do, which would then fulfill that need, is the biggest thing that we could do to implement the decision maker evolution. Defending the leadership position there. So it's kind of a SWOT analysis that we're going to run on this. So the strengths, massive industrial footprint with its #1 global sustainability ranking to lead China's digital energy transition via the AI native resource advisor platform. So Schneider Electric's industrial footprint and the #1 sustainability ranking provide credibility. We can leverage this credibility to influence other businesses to adopt or kind of use just different segments of the Resource Advisor Plus platform and that agentic AI. Weaknesses of Schneider. So Schneider Electric struggles with the electrical hardware brand perception. People don't really realize that we have this product, and I know it's brand new, the Resource Advisory Plus system and the agentic AI, but currently it's just an electrical hardware company, and there's a lack of dedicated local marketing resources and geopolitical headwinds as a foreign entity in a state-dominated market. So the other thing you're competing with there is people are buying local in China. They're not outsourcing to a company such as Schneider at the moment. It's just an electrical hardware film and not a premium advisor for sustainability. So that's probably the biggest weakness there. In terms of opportunities, the 2026 shift towards absolute carbon emissions cap under the 15th five-year plan creates a massive greenfield market for audit-ready compliance software and AI-native energy management. And what this means is 2026 carbon caps create a greenfield market. So this is great. So the trajectory for the world in terms of sustainability is green. There is a place and a definite need for the software that Schneider Electric is providing. In terms of threats, agile domestic software as a service competitors are going to be your biggest threat there. As I mentioned before, kind of with the weaknesses, these startups provide intense competition by offering low-cost, highly localized sustainability solutions that challenge traditional market incumbents. So you're going to be competing with the locals there and their tech as well. And it's never hard, especially even as an American myself. We always talk buy American. Buy American. It's always good. So the biggest threat there is going to be those local businesses within China. All right, moving on, kind of more of a deep dive here into the SWOT analysis. Resource Advisory Plus aligns with China's rapid AI adoption. It's kind of the biggest thing there. I'm just going to kind of smooth through these since we kind of went over it in the weaknesses. Schneider Electric is mainly known in China for electrical retail, as we mentioned before. As of early 2026, Schneider Electric Advisory Services has no established division or dedicated marketing resources physically located within the country. I think this is a crucial thing just for a brand awareness standpoint. And with the market having strong domestic competition, being perceived as a foreign entity can be difficult and sensitive, as I mentioned before, kind of with the threats part. All right. The domestic firms, I'll move down to the threats. The domestic firms can understand the threats better than we are going to in terms of an organization. They're going to understand context better on what businesses want, Chinese businesses, that is, and in terms of based locally in China. And then tensions between China and international markets require Schneider Electric to navigate government relations with extreme care. You're going to be dealing with the Chinese government, especially if you're having a base and a footprint over there, and that's going to be difficult. It's definitely attainable, but nonetheless going to be quite a challenge at this point. Opportunities. The recent sustainability disclosure mandates in China create a massive pain point, which we mentioned before, and a lot of this is I've kind of repeated myself. And sustainability is a core state priority with the government as of now, mandates for carbon neutrality, etc. All right, now we go to the next slide. So new growth opportunities. So we're going to start with Schneider Electric's 2,700 plus existing corporate clients in China. This is a large number, and these corporate clients from legacy hardware to AI native Resource Advisory Plus platform. We got to use the vernacular as Schneider Electric's global #1 sustainability ranking to provide immediate trust and create credibility with the MNCs and their tier 1 Chinese supporters. I think leveraging that #1 global sustainability, that is crucial, and getting awareness out about that would bode well. All right, the mandatory reporting deadline. So target for April 2026 deadline, where 400 plus large firms in China are mandated to publish their first double materiality ESG disclosures. This positions Resource Advisory Plus as the single source of truth, coined that term, for verifiable Scope 3 data, which is now a critical pain point for these Chinese manufacturers exporting to US and European markets. So they're migrating from legacy energy tools to AI native, or like Resource Advisory Plus would be an example of that. And then operational integration strategy. So transition existing users by highlighting Resource Advisory Plus's use as an AI system of action that unifies siloed energy data into one living and intelligent workspace. If the people are already using your product, especially over the 2,700 plus corporate clients, it'd be easier to transition them into this than moving on from there. We got to use the global sustainability ranking as a trust bridge to implement and transition these clients over to a Resource Advisory Plus. Of course, adhering to the strict local data laws, guaranteeing all information processed by Resource Advisory Plus stays within Chinese border or a enclosed circuit for that regard, which is important for the government projects. All right. So in conclusion, our recommendation is China remains the essential growth engine for Schneider Electric, matching the company's entry criteria as an expanding economy, focusing on green pilot infrastructure. And then the competitive edge by combining Schneider Electric's #1 global sustainability ranking with AI native capabilities of Resource Advisory Plus. Schneider Electric is uniquely positioned to meet the high digital savvy technological advancements of the Chinese market. The operational mandate success requires strict adherence to data sovereignty and localization laws, ensuring Resource Advisory Plus data remains within the China to maintain government trusts. And the final outlook, while geopolitical tensions and domestic competitors are high, the shift towards 2026 absolute carbon footprint controls a critical window for Schneider Electric to transition from a hardware provider into the region as a long-term digital energy partner. So in terms of like a recommendation thing here, there's consultant, a phase 1 to kind of be like a beachhead. So we want to target multinationals within China sites, focus on compliance and cost reduction message, pilot in 2 to 3 facilities. Phase 2 would be more of a partnership kind of thing. You want to go after get ESG advisors, local integrators, sovereign cloud hosts. Phase 3 would be the scale. So look at China's ESG module, outcome-based pricing, and ABM to top 50 accounts, I'd say. And the key performance indicators we're looking for there are going to be like the 20 pilot opportunities, 30% SKO conversion, and like a 6 to month sales cycle there. So China is not like a software sale. It's a regulated transformation project. Resource Advisory Plus fits perfectly well if deployed within compliance partners and ROI focus. Our plan gives Schneider a credible path to protect and grow leadership in the world's most important sustainability market. So that's kind of what I got here, and I thank you again on behalf of the China Dossier here. And again, my name is Brandon Bate, and I hope you enjoyed our presentation. Thank you. Bye-bye.